anything.
How can that be a sacrifice? You're giving something up.
To me, though, that whole thing is just another testament to the immorality of this character Yahweh.
Yeah, that he needs a blood sacrifice.
Because the reality is, there was no requirement. First of all, there was no requirement for redemption. All right, that was an arbitrary thing. If God is all powerful, then He can say, "I'll accept or not accept."
There was a requirement by Jewish law.
Well,
so God is subject to Jewish law?
No, God created the law, apparently, supposedly. The point is, if He's dictating this, then He's making the game. He's making these rules. So He's the one that says, hey, let's kill somebody. Let's torture them, and let's kill them, and let's slaughter a human being as recompense for all these guilty people so that they can then, be rewarded for their lives of guilt.
And the reason for that is because we took in the fruit of the tree.
No, but there's no reason for it. There is no reason for it.
Are you saying that it is impossible? Are you saying that it is impossible for God to just forgive without a blood sacrifice? God can't do that?
He does.
Can He do that?
He made, instead of making each one of us sacrifice, He made one for all.
My point is, there have to be any.
Can you answer any question straight, John? I tried to make them really easy. Are you saying, can God, if He wants to, just say, no blood sacrifice necessary, I forgive you for that?
If He wants to, but
then why doesn't He want to?
Listen, His character. It is His character of holiness.
I told you last week, His character is an ass, and that's the point.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that it's His character to demand a blood torture death, because that's what He did all through the Old Testament.
And it sounds good to Him. It says
the point is, it's not a character of holiness. That's a character of massive, sadistic cruelty. And if you have the right to make the rules of the game and you say, under my rules, we're going to slaughter animals for centuries and centuries and centuries, and then when it gets down to it, I'm just going to beat the hell out of a human being and then kill them in a horrific way, and that's my game. And you're saying this is the most moral God, this is the most moral being. It's like there couldn't be a more immoral setup for a game. And the biggest joke of all is that He created it all. So the condemnation is heaped upon a thing that He produced. And He made all the parameters so that whatever happens, He already knew it was going to happen. He even set the foundations of the universe. He saw this whole thing out. He knew exactly what you were going to do from the time you were born to the time you were going to die. Set this whole thing up, and then condemns you for doing exactly what He knew you were going to do, and then slaughters somebody to make up for that. It's the most messed up thing ever. And to call that moral and good, and to look at that and say, yeah, I can see the morality behind it. No, that's insanity. I don't even know what to call that. The fact that this religion could get people to call that love is a disgrace to human minds. I mean, I don't even know
It's exactly, you have demonstrated again this week exactly the point that I made last week. And that is that in bending over backwards to accept an immoral doctrine as moral, you have sacrificed your humanity, you have sacrificed your compassion, you have bought into absurdities and lies. You basically said that whatever God says goes. And when asked the fairly simple questions, you have to hem and haw over it, because somewhere down deep, you know that it's not morally right.
That slavery is not right. That mass infanticide is not right. That telling a raped woman she has to marry her rapist because that's his penalty for raping her, that is not right. That is not moral. And the fact that there are so many people that are willing to call that moral shows me what this religion can do to a person's brain.
It has twisted you up to the point where, and as Voltaire said, if you can get people to accept absurdities, you can get them to commit atrocities. And that's exactly what we're seeing. John, I think you're more moral than your God, than your religion.
Yeah, whatever morality you have under this doctrine is in spite of it, not because of it.
Yeah, and what I had asked you last week, about would you build a torture cell? And today you call in to say that hell was designed for the devil, and
I take back the smack.
Yes, humans were never meant to go there. Well, so then your view of God doesn't include an omniscience of the future. But in any case, isn't He supposed to be all-powerful? Why didn't He just eliminate all of those angels that opposed Him? Why did he have to create a place to torture them forever?
So he wasn't an omniscient God under John's model, is that what you're saying?
Evidently, but it doesn't matter whether he saw it coming or not.
Well, if he didn't,
after it happened, he could have just, okay, you guys no longer exist. But he didn't. He's a sadistic, twisted, demented guy. He is an exact representation of the fears of that Bronze and Iron Age roving band of thugs who traveled around the Middle East trying to steal as much land as they could and doing it in the name of God. It's insane. And yet you're saying that he's the ultimate, oh, it's the Dead Sea Scrolls, this is the ultimate source of morality. No, John, you are. And morality is something that has shifted culturally. It changes. It's something we grow and learn more about. And hopefully we are generally more moral than the if we're doing things right, than the generation that preceded us.
And the fact is, if you're willing to say, if God told me to rape a 12-year-old girl, I would not do it, then what you're actually saying is that you do accept your own moral responsibility and that you're not deriving it from your God. Because what you're claiming is that you have a sense of morality that you would not violate, even if you believed a God was telling you to do this, that you would say, this is not correct and I would not do it. So you're basically saying, if I consider it moral, I will accept it. If God tells me to do it. But if I don't consider it moral, I won't accept it if God tells me to do it. And I think with hell, you're willing to say that you accept it because you're not really confronted with a reality. I think that if you had to really watch people be tortured, or if you had to really watch someone be annihilated and say that that was correct, I think it would be a little bit harder. But because we're talking about a mythological thing that is not really there, that there's not something manifesting that you have to actually confront, like child rape, it becomes easier to say, yeah, I support this, because it's not an atrocity that you actually have to watch.
And two quick things that I didn't get to because it was difficult to get an actual answer is, sit down and think about it for a while and try and figure out exactly what the point was in God creating this system at all in the first place. Why not, if supposedly he's omniscient or all-powerful, why not just create a bunch of good souls and let them live forever in heaven ahead of time? Why create this soul-filtering machine where we're going to send some of them to a paradise and some of them to a hell when he already knows?
But the reality is there are no constraints. Like the idea that God is love and we can't stand before that kind of love, it's like, that's crap. If God is all-powerful, then we can stand before that kind of love because God can make it possible. So there's no constraints. You can't put constraints on it. Well, I guess you could, but you'd have to come up front with that and say, my God comes with all these constraints, and you'd have to define those before you came forward with your argument for God.
Yeah, and the last thing that we kind of almost marginally got to was you need some criteria for which you're going to determine, let's say, for example, that Jesus is good and Satan is evil, or any kind of distinction.
Because if I can't judge from the actions, how am I supposed to make the judgment? I mean,
normally what I hear from Christians who are at least more familiar with the Bible is the quote from Romans, where it says that God is written on the heart of every man so that they are without excuse. And this is used by them to say that God has written into our heart so that we know the difference between good and evil, and that is what we use as a barometer for determining good and evil. That's a problem for two reasons. For the exact same reason that your reliance on the Scripture is a problem. And that is that if you're talking about an all-powerful being who can evidently make you do whatever he wants to do, and a not quite all-powerful being, at least within Christian theology, and he hasn't squashed this one yet, but evidently they're in a struggle, and we're just little ants. And you think that this one has written a book to tell you that this is the good one. And other Christians think that this one has put a little plug in your heart to tell you that this one's the good one. Maybe this is the good one. Maybe this is the one that's lying, and this one is waiting around to see if you'll ever figure it out. If you'll ever wake up and realize that what this one's telling you to do isn't good just because he says it's good. Maybe neither one of them exists, which is the position that I'm in which case I'm still able to do what you could do with regard to either one of these, which is evaluate what they're saying and determine whether or not it is more beneficial than harmful. What are its effects on the individual, the society? What kind of society does it produce when we allow things like slavery and genocide and infanticide? Why would any loving being ever order anything like that? Would you? I mean, would you even set up a system like this? And then would you enact it? And could you sit there comfortable knowing that these little peons, these little playthings of yours, just go over and wipe those guys out. They don't love me enough. Oh, and when you do it, make sure you run your swords through their bellies so that we kill the unborn that are in there, because we don't want them to grow up to be heathens. Oh, and slaughter all the cattle and sheep. Yeah, I know you guys are starving in a roving band and you could really use them, but they're so bad that it's ruined their cattle and sheep too. So we better. It's insane.